Today is August 17th, 2018. The time is 10:51 a.m. This is Agent Kevin Koback from CBI making a phone call to witness in the Watts matter, Nichole Lee Kessinger at Nichole texted me last night and said that she recalled some further information after an interview with her on the 16th. So the phone call will be to update whatever information she wants to provide and address a couple other issues that were not addressed during the initial interview.
Hello.
Hi, Nikki. It's Kevin.
Hi.
How are you? Sorry for the delay. I got stuck in a meeting. Obviously, couldn't walk out. So I apologize for taking so long to get back to you.
It's okay.
You at least got a couple hours of sleep last night?
Yes.
You sound a little bit better than yesterday.
I feel a little bit better. Not much, but I feel like sitting down and just talking about all of that with everybody is like, it's helping.
Good. Well, I think just keep that up. And again, if you need any, if I can put you in touch with somebody from a victim advocate to whatever I can help you with, just call and ask.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to need you to do that once we're done talking.
Okay, sure. I can get somebody in touch with you today. And you don't need to tell me about anything. We talked about that yesterday, but it might be something good for you to do, and I can make that happen today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what you texted me about 2 a.m. and said that you remembered some other information. What did you remember?
Like, just kind of odds and ends. And I'm sure there will be more as this goes on. I interacted with him so much that sometimes, like, I just have to stop and think about how much information that I have gotten from him over the last few months and the last week or so. And, you know, like I said, I never know what's true and what's not anymore.
Sure.
But I figured I'll just give you guys everything I have. And hopefully I don't have to keep calling you back with more, but no promises.
No, that's okay. Please do. Like I told you yesterday, anything that comes to mind that you think is important, I'd like to know. Because you know him better than anybody probably over the last 6 to 8 weeks. So that's anything that he said to you or anything that stands out to you as you're reflecting on all this kind of mess here is important for me to know.
Understood. Couple things. So one, I went back and I tried to find whatever text you were talking about between my friend Charlotte and me with the eHarmony thing, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, her and I text so much though. So if you find it and you show it to me, let me know. But it's just I was on that site, but it was never worth a damn for me. So it wasn't really something that I ever discussed with her. However, when I was going back through there, I did realize that I had offhandedly mentioned to her a little bit about Chris. I didn't tell her that I was how deep the rabbit hole went on that, I guess you could say, but it was kind of vague, and she was asking a lot of questions at that point, but it was just oh, you know what, I did say something to her.
You guys, I think I just looked at the messages, and there was some little bit of conversation regarding, he's got kids, There was some conversations about some sexual related stuff, and that was about it. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's it. But I mean, I did mention it to her, and honestly, we've talked since then, and I haven't even mentioned him, and that girl's so wrapped up in everything that's going on in her life. Like, I don't even think she realizes what's going on in the news.
Okay.
I don't even think she's going to connect the dots. Like, I would be surprised. Like, I honestly am convinced that if I don't say a word about it, I bet you she won't even bring him up.
Okay.
And even if she did, if I was just like, yeah, he's not around anymore in my life, like, I don't even think... I'm not concerned about her.
Okay. And the only concern I had there is there seemed like there was some conversation about a boyfriend, and it doesn't seem like, so you were actually talking to her about Chris, not a boyfriend.
Yeah, I went back through those texts. I'm like, what is he talking about? I don't see anything about eHarmony. I mean, and if it's in there, maybe it is, and I just missed it. But
Okay.
It's like, no, I don't know.
It's not all that important. It's not all that important. So we can move past that. What else?
On Monday night, so a couple things. I told you he had like texted me, and then at the end of the night, he had called, or I had called. I think he called me, but either way, we were on the phone with each other. And like at some point when we were on the phone, he was like, do you want to FaceTime? And I remember I was laying in bed, and I was just like, you know what? Okay, let me turn on the light. And I remember I turned on the light, and we FaceTimed. And when we FaceTimed, he didn't really say much. Like, it was almost kind of awkward. I don't even know why I didn't think of this earlier, but it was very short too. It was super brief. And
like,
I remember
what's short?
What?
What is short? Like a couple of minutes or 30 minutes?
Oh, no, I bet it was only probably like less than 5 minutes. I think it was only like a couple of minutes.
Okay.
And I think we were like talking a little bit, but he was laying down on a mattress that didn't have any sheets on it. And I was like, okay. So I was thinking like, well, maybe he's in bed. I don't know what's up. But I remember asking him like, where's your sheets, you know? And he's like, oh, I washed them. And then this is the part I don't remember if this sentence right here came in this FaceTime conversation or if it came in a phone conversation prior to the FaceTime conversation. But regardless, this next sentence came on Monday night, and I'm so sorry that I cannot always remember chronological every little detail.
That's okay. It's understandable.
There's so much. But I remember he was saying that he was cleaning the house to try to keep busy, to take his mind off of things. And this was on the phone. And and it was kind of late when he was doing it. And I didn't honestly think that much about it originally, because that man is always cleaning. He's a very, very organized, meticulous, clean individual. He's the type of guy that will vacuum his whole house one week, and if there's rooms that don't get used, he'd vacuum again the next week, just because it's part of his routine.
Okay.
So the fact that he's cleaning to kill time and he take his mind off things did not seem like a super red flag to me. Because I was like, okay, well, that's what he does. He just on his days off, he organizes his basement, or he cleans his garage. It's what he does.
Okay.
And so anyways, so that didn't seem at all the norm for me. But something that just kind of dawned on me last night as he made the comment directly after that. He said, I had to wash the kids' sheets. He was like, they smelled. And I was thinking about that last night, and I'm like, this man keeps that house so clean. That's the cleanest house I've ever seen. And I'm like, this man keeps that house so clean. Why would his kids' sheets smell bad?
And you think this was Monday night? What time do you think it was Monday night?
Oh God, I don't even know. I almost wish you guys would show me my phone records.
So I'm gonna read off your phone calls for Monday and Tuesday, starting.
No, it's on Monday.
Okay,
just
so
tell me on Monday night.
Monday night, you guys had. We talked about a phone call yesterday, but you guys had a phone call Monday night. It looks like he called you. It was 48 minutes and 57 seconds. It was at 9:48 p.m. that he called you. So that would take us to about 10:35. And then there's another call on Monday. It's for 51 minutes and 25 seconds, it looks like. I'm not sure, looking at this, who called who, but it looks like you called him. And that was at 11:09 p.m. That lasted 51 minutes. So that takes us to midnight. And then there's another phone call where he calls you. So we're now into midnight, Tuesday morning. It's a 30-minute phone call that lasts until 12:38 a.m. And then after 12:38 a.m., there's a 2-minute and 44-second phone call that lasts that starts at 1:12 a.m. It's 2 minutes and 44 seconds. So
I would almost, this is just me, but I would go get my text messages with him from that night, and I would sync them up to that time frame, because there was texting in between that. So I think what happened is he called me on that first call, and then there's that gap between the first call and the second call. In that gap, that was when we FaceTimed for a few minutes, and that was when I got up out of bed because I was just having trouble sleeping, and I went and did laundry. That's what I did. I went I just put some clothes in the dryer, and then I think I called him back, and then we continued to talk. So that little gap right there between those two big phone calls at the very beginning of the night,
yes.
I mean, not the very beginning of the night, but the big ones at the first two. So in between that gap, there's a quick FaceTime.
So do you think that 2 minute and 44 second is the FaceTime?
The one at the very end?
Yeah. Well, so there's
I don't even think the FaceTime's on there.
Okay,
because the FaceTime occurred in between those two big phone calls.
Okay. Okay.
Because it was one big phone call, and then there's a FaceTime, and in the FaceTime short, it's only a few minutes, and then there's probably just a few more minutes. That's probably.
There's a few more calls on Tuesday. So 1:12 is the 2 minute and 44 second call. That lasts till approximately 1:14, and then there's a long gap until 1:50. So another 45 or 35 minutes, and then there's a 7-minute phone call. That phone call lasts till 1:58 a.m. And then there's a 10-second phone call at 2:07 a.m. followed by. I think he calls you and maybe leaves a voicemail or something, or you don't pick up. So there's a 10-second call, and then directly after that, there's a 10-minute and 24-second phone call.
Okay, so I'm talking about the two at the very beginning of the
two long
really
ones.
Long ones.
And is that when he's talking about the kids'
yes,
sheets?
with the sheet. Okay, so yes. I will help you line this up. I almost want to just come in there and drop and drag all of my texts to where they were going.
And you know what? We may meet and do that here coming early next week.
Yeah, well, all those phone calls at the very end of the night, that was me freaking out. If you look at my text, a lot of that was I can't sleep, I'm really scared, where's your family? That was me freaking out, and him calling to try to reassure me, or me calling him please talk to me, I'm super scared, where's your family? Those little ones at the very end of the night are me not being able to sleep and trying to get him to talk to me about and just I guess making sure everything was okay. So those real late ones, and that's why they're all kind of sporadic, because I'd be up for an hour, and then I'd fall asleep for 15 minutes, and then I would wake up and start stressing again and try to call them back. So that's why there are all these little sporadic ones throughout the end of the night. But those two big ones.
So yesterday we talked about Tuesday was mainly text messages regarding your confrontation about his wife being pregnant.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
It is, and I mean, I guess those phone calls were on Tuesday morning, but for me, it was still Monday night. So when I was talking to you guys last night, that's how I referred to it, because I hadn't gone to bed yet.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. No, that makes sense to me. Okay. So
I guess those technically were on Tuesday, but according to my daily sleep schedule, that was still my Monday night.
Right. So the last phone call with him on Monday, well, it basically starts into Tuesday. It takes you all the way to Tuesday. It actually ends like basically at midnight on Monday, August 31st. So his wife gets home sometime at about 2 o'clock on that morning. So
no, she got home on Sunday.
Pardon me, Sunday. She got home on Sunday. So did you ever talk to him late on Sunday night?
No, we were on the phone, but I mean, I had to let him go and get up and go to work.
That was the 9 to 11 call it was like a 2-hour phone call we talked about yesterday on Sunday night from 9 p.m. to 11.
And that would have been the last time that I talked to him until the work day on Monday.
And that's when he texted you at like 3:45.
No, we talked during work. Remember I told you he like randomly texted me throughout the day at work, but it was just like bullshit conversation.
Okay.
It wasn't like anything of
No substance. Okay. So the most important thing that you've said here is this Monday night phone call, he doesn't have any sheets on the bed, and he said his children's sheets were smelly.
They smelled.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's get back to that, because I feel like you and me are kind of getting off track.
Yep.
So go to that first long phone call on Monday night was, I think, when he told me that. I don't think he told me that in the FaceTime text. I mean, in the FaceTime conversation. I think he told me that in the first conversation, where he was like, their sheets smell. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why? Like, you keep such a clean house. Like, why would your kids' sheets stink? And, like, it just didn't really click.
Did you confront him? Why they?
What's up?
Did you confront him why the sheets smelled, or did you inquire why?
No, I didn't even ask.
Do you know his? I mean, his children were quite young, and I think one of them was still in diapers. Would have that been a potential reason, that one of them had an accident, or did it seem like that's not what he was talking about?
I don't know. I mean, he didn't elaborate.
Okay.
He was just like, I mean, like I said, he always cleans the house, but even if his kids were to be in diapers and, like, have accidents, like, I just feel like the man keeps his house so clean, and she does too. They both must have to like, coexist in a house that clean. But, like, I just don't see anything in that house, like, smelling.
Okay. All right.
So that was why I brought that up, because I was like, whoa. Okay.
Very important. Thanks for remembering that.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm really trying to help you guys. I need you guys to help me too. Like,
yes,
we'll
ma'am.
do this as a team, but just don't
so
fucking let me down,
the
please.
reason why we can't, like, I did think about this yesterday, that I would like to sit down with you once we have your text messages and the phone calls, and we can put them in a some type of easily looking, that we can sit down and look at them and compare them, and we can kind of get the context of how everything was going that night. I would like to do that with you. Unfortunately, so the download that we got yesterday is going to take multiple days to be analyzed. I probably won't have it back till next week. And then, because you guys did have so many text messages, one of my analysts is working on getting those in order, so we can put something together where we can actually sit down and discuss it. But I do think that's something that I want to do in the near future, sometime probably next week.
I mean, I can do that. I don't mind giving you guys my time. I just need you guys to, like, help me with my employer and try to just help me brace for this media thing and just try.
So I think your personal mental health is the number one issue. So let me help you with that and get a victim advocate to call you. And you can address questions of employment with them. I think they're better suited to answer those questions than I am. So I would ask you to direct questions to them. If they can't answer them, I'll try to help you as best as I can. I think you have a personal decision to make on what you want to do with your employer. I think you're kind of backed into a corner. And you are going to, it's a tough decision. Do you want to inform them of what was going on? But I will tell you that I think that when they started looking at information for us, and I clarified this morning because I didn't do some of the work on this, but there was either text messages or emails between you and Chris that were on that were on company-related phones or on company-related computers that they were privileged to look at, so they already know about you. Okay, so
yeah, I don't know if I'm going to keep my job. I hope they don't fire me for that. I mean, technically, I'm not an APC employee, and he is, and it was his phone and not mine. So,
well,
like,
I don't think that's fire. Like, I don't know labor law. I'll just put it that way. I think that, you know, whatever. I mean, people have relationships at work, and you guys were smart enough to stop the stuff. However, you guys did it. Is it an unusual circumstance that two people who got together at their place of employment, this terrible tragedy happened? Yes. Do I think that they are going to do anything to you? I don't think so. I mean, if you read the paper today, you saw they already fired Chris. I mean,
as they should, but
right.
I'm hoping they're not going to fire me.
Well, and I think you need to head that up. I think if it was me, and this is just this is not a professional opinion, it's a personal opinion, because I'm trying to help you as much as I can. I would reach out to your employer and just say, I want to come in and talk to you, but maybe talk to your EAP people first, and let me get you in touch with a victim advocate, because again, I think your mental health is more important right now than even your employment. I want you to make sure that you're comfortable and safe in everything that's happening, and then make some professional decisions and in regards to your employment. Okay. So let me do that.
And we can. Go ahead.
No, I have a couple more questions that don't relate to anything that we just talked about. Is there anything else that you remembered last night that you want to address?
Yeah, a few. So I'm not done yet.
Okay.
And then we can talk about that whole thing too, because I was actually going to see if I could email them today. I was going to email my upper boss, and I was actually going to call her and see and just ask her if she can have. She's Anadarko rep. See if she can have a schedule sit down with my employer Tasman and schedule sit down with EAP, and I want to get in a room with them all at the same time and just give them kind of a brief synopsis of what's going on and just ask them for help and see what they have to say.
Yeah.
But I was going to.
I think that's a good plan.
Say to them and just ask your opinion on it, because I don't want to give them too much.
You do not need to tell them anything about the investigation or anything about what we discussed. From my standpoint, the investigative pieces that we've talked about, and specifically things that relate directly to why something may have happened or time frames or things like that, they don't need to know that. I think.
Oh, I wasn't going to tell them that. I was just going to let them know that I was.
You were in a relationship with
this
him.
Case, and that that I'm like a witness to this case, and that right now it's pretty quiet. But in a few weeks, given how everything goes, it might become kind of a media frenzy. And I was just going to tell them, I mean, I didn't commit any crimes, and I'm not in trouble, but
right.
I'm working with the prosecutor to try to help to bring some closure to this horrible thing, and then just tell them, I don't think the media is going to portray a very nice picture of me, and it's just an unfortunate circumstance, and
I think that your projection of whatever is going to happen with the media can be reserved until that time. I know that's like your biggest fear in this, but right now I would not even wouldn't address anything that hasn't happened. I think I would simply tell them, look, I am involved in this case, I'm a witness, and I, whether or not, I think they already know it, and I'm sure Anadarko is going to talk with whoever your employer is to make them aware of that, and then, hey, I had a relationship with this guy, and that's all they need to know. They don't need to know anything else. And then, I mean, you have to protect your employment and your personal well-being. So think of the best way to do that, and just minimal information. You don't have to tell them very much, but I do think you're on the right track of getting ahead of it. But again, I'm not an attorney, especially a labor attorney. So you have to make decisions for yourself on that. But some of the people here in the victim advocate realm may be able to give you some better advice than I.
I was hoping to do that today.
Sure. I will make a phone call today and
get the ball rolling on this.
Yep.
Because I would like to either go to work on Monday or like figure out what is going on with like a fresh week and like try to put my life together because I think it will help.
Yeah, I think getting back to work and not sitting there and dwelling on this at every moment is going to be very beneficial to you. So I will reach out to those people who handled that today. If I had a name, I'd give it to you. I don't. But I'll see who's available. Okay? So what other...
I want to reach out to them today.
Okay. As soon as we're done here, I'll make that my next priority.
Thank you.
What other things is there that you thought of last night?
So I don't know when this phone conversation happened. I think that this was Monday at some point as well. I think it might have even been the same phone conversation as him washing the sheets and everything. I think it might have been the same conversation. He informed me that her friend Nikki's son was at the house when the cops came, and that he was running all over the house and up and down in all the rooms. And at this point, I was like, well, is anything missing? Because I was thinking on Monday that this girl had just left for the night. So I was like, well, maybe if she's staying with Nikki or somebody, maybe she forgot some stuff. So maybe they're sending, they're like sending him in, like, hey, go get a toothbrush or go get this or go get that. Like, I didn't know. And so he's like, yeah, this little kid was like running all over my house and in all the different rooms in the house. And I was like, well, is anything missing? And he was like, well, I think there's some blankets missing from my kids' rooms, but I don't think he took them. I think she did.
Okay. So he said little kid. Do you know how old this man was or boy was?
Oh, Nikki's son? I don't know.
Okay.
I think he's like 10 or 12. Like, I think he's yeah. I don't know. I think he's like 10 or 12. Like, old enough to, like, process information and run around house.
So he said he thought that the kid didn't take him, but that maybe Shanann had taken him.
Yes.
That's weird, okay. So Nikki Sonny's like 10 to 12. And I'm just making some notes, just a sec.
Take your time.
Okay. What else?
Oh, let me see. I don't know. I feel like I had a list in my head and I almost wrote it down, but I didn't want to put it on paper.
How about this? And I was going to mention this last night, but I think both of us were pretty tired, and we were there for a long time yesterday. So if you have a thought, keep a notepad and a pen and paper with you and write it down, and then that way you don't lose it. That way, and then you can just call me and we can discuss it, and we're done, and then move on. Then you don't have to think about it anymore. Does that sound like a decent idea?
It does.
Okay.
I don't know what else I was going to tell you. When we FaceTime too. So let me go back to that too. So
okay.
I think all of this was on Monday. So I think both the comments about the blankets and the sheets were on that first phone call on Monday. And then directly after that phone call, there was like a brief FaceTime. And when I FaceTimed him, he was laying on a bed that didn't have any sheets on it.
Okay.
And I remember, and he was like in just like a little wife beater top, and he didn't really say much. It was like he wanted me to talk to him. He's like, I just wanted to see your face. And he like wanted me to talk to him, but he was like kind of quiet. And actually, that was why I got off the phone with him and went and did laundry, and then so I would call him back on the phone, because when we were FaceTiming, it was like kind of weird. I was like, I don't really know where this is going. Like, you're not really having a conversation with me.
So he was just removed. He wasn't very engaged in the conversation.
He was just like really fixated on like me. Like I bet you if I wouldn't have talked, he would have been okay with it.
Just staring at you?
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, it was really brief too. Like it was super short, and I was just like, this is not going anywhere. And I remember telling him like, I will call you back, but let me go do some laundry. So I like got out of bed and went and threw some clothes in the dryer that I had forgot to put in the dryer prior to laying down. And then, I don't know, I think I might have did like one or two other little quick things, and then I got back in bed and then called him back on the phone, and that's when that second long phone call starts.
Okay. All right, great. Anything else?
Off the top of my head, I don't really think so. I mean, I did want to make a comment too, though. Like, the other gentleman that was in the room last night, I do not remember his name.
His name was Tim.
Tim, that's right. I knew it started with a T, and I couldn't remember the rest. He was asking me, like, oh, did you guys ever talk about my plans, stuff like that? And here's the deal. Like, when it comes to Chris or any other man that I've ever had in my life, like, I always discuss important things, like where do you want to be in 5 years? Like, you know, is this the type of man that wants to have kids? And in his case, more kids. Like, are you, like, what type of house do you want to live in? Like,
Okay, so again, she cuts off. Always in her interviews, she always ends up cutting off. So, but that's okay because we got them and I'm going to read them to you. And so where she left off is right here where I have it highlighted. So we're just going to start reading from there. What type of house do you live in? Like, where are you at financially? Like, we started going over this last night, and you know, one thing that I want to express is when I have these conversations with him, it was not me saying I need a house and I want to get married now and I want to have babies now. It was never like, let's just leave your old life behind and start any of this. It was literally like inquisitions of, where do you see yourself? Like, if you and me ended up in this long-term relationship, like, what are you looking for? And for me, it's not because I'm trying to rush into a relationship. It's because I want to know what I'm getting into. I've seen people that are together for 3 or 4 years and never have the conversation of whether or not they want to have kids. She said kids like 6 times during this one paragraph, and so kids was definitely on her mind for some reason, like hardcore. She also obviously never says in any of her interviews that she did tell him she wanted to have his son, but she's kids is like a major part of her ordeal with him. So if she's going to sit here and tell this investigator all this stuff, kids, what about your kids, more kids, have kids, any kids, all this jazz, then you know damn well she talked to him about it, you know, right? I mean, you know, seriously. And Kevin just says, okay. Or things like that. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, no. And it's just, to me, so that's why I ask those questions. Okay, maybe she thinks they're going to get a text where she's drilling him about kids. And so this is kind of preventive maintenance to explain before they even ask her, why do you keep asking him about his kids or this kids or whatever? I don't know, but maybe because, damn, she talks about kids a lot, right? And that is not in the actual interview, so if you've never actually heard the transcript, you wouldn't realize that. And a lot of people, and I'm going to be honest, me, myself, when I first started getting into this case, where it cut off there, I never really went and looked at the transcript. I didn't, you know, I was like, whatever, that's enough. You know, I know enough I hear enough of this, and I pretty much got my own opinion already. But then when you go in to read what you didn't hear, well, it's even more, you know, than you ever thought it would be. And makes no sense. But it was never like, And he says, it makes sense to me. I understand. I kind of got a picture of who you are. You're very organized. You're very thoughtful. You, like I said, you seem very intelligent, and you make some decisions based on fact. And so you're inquiring if these people have their life together. And so I understand why you're asking those questions, but it makes sense to me from a standpoint of who you are, how you do things. So it makes sense to me, yeah. Okay, let me just say here, Kevin, he stumbles over his words quite a lot, and Nichole does as well, but Kevin's really bad about it. I've noticed that, reading this transcript, he has a lot of double talk. He has a lot of uhs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to try to skip over all that, because if you actually try to read that, it just doesn't even sound right. And it's almost annoying even reading it, let alone hearing it. Now, when he's saying it, it doesn't sound that bad, but when I'm reading it, it just sounds weird and it doesn't make sense. And I'm going to try to catch it, and I'm not going to do it because it's just annoying. But anyway, and Nichole says, okay, I hope he didn't misinterpret any of that, but I always really tried to tell this man, hey, we need to take this slow. So I don't know. He never seemed like he really wanted to take it that slow. I think he was in fifth gear the entire time, and it was me that was trying to tell him hey, you don't need to be like that. And shame on me. I think if I'm in a relationship with somebody who's trying to move a lot faster than me, then maybe it's up to me to hit the brakes. Because honestly, he was so kind to me that I just had a really hard time being why am I going to push him away? Sure. Because, honestly, he was so kind to me that I just had a really hard time being why am I going to push him away? Sure. And so I didn't. And it is what it is. Well, I can see in your, in the cards that you provided yesterday, I looked at them this morning. I think the earliest one was dated your birthday, and he was quite enthralled with you at that time. And you guys hadn't even been dating about a month by your account. Oh, I think we had sex maybe twice at that point. Right. And you started dating in June. It was super early. Right. You guys started dating in June. And so you're having sex 2 times by the time he sends that card. And then the next one is July the 30th, if I recall. And I mean, he's basically telling you he's infatuated with you. And then he handwrites a note that says, you're his life, is the way I kind of read that. So, I mean, and then he handwrites a note that says, you're his life, is the way I kind of read that. So, I mean, he was very, I can see what you mean by him moving very quickly. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously just in those cards that you provided. Yes, and even then, when I read these, I'm it was a little much for me, and I was damn, he even gave me 2 of them one day, and I was just it was a lot, but at the same time, it wasn't really a red flag. I don't know, I've dated a lot of douchebags in my life, so having a guy that wants to get me cards and roses, I mean flowers and stuff, I'm maybe I'll just roll with this and see what happens. It was very different than anything that I ever had, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was more respectful than anything I've ever had. So I didn't it didn't really register to me hey, this might be a problem. Usually it's the people that treat you really bad where you're hey, this is an issue. So it didn't click, And now I'm looking back and I'm like, whoa, like, I don't even think that this guy necessarily was like in love with me. I think this guy was like lusting over me a lot. Right. I think that's a fair assessment. So let's move on from that. Um, there's a couple of questions I didn't ask you yesterday, and they're very specific. You mentioned you guys, obviously you're into fitness, and so was he. Did you guys go to the same gym? No, he worked out in his basement. I never went to the gym with him. Okay, so do you know him to go to any gyms? Because you said like you were planning for his apartment and how he could get to his gym and do his day, like kids, school, and then to work. Well, yeah, I was trying to get because he was going to have to go to a gym if he had an apartment, because he's not going to be able to set up that gym equipment in an apartment. Okay, so right now, you know him. He works out of his house. Okay. But if he were to move, just because he's downsizing so much, I don't think he has the capability. I mean, I would love to have a gym in my apartment. That would be nice, but I just didn't think he had the capability, so that's why I brought it up. Like, because we were even discussing, like, what gym do you want to go to, you know? I mean, and he was like, well, there's an Anytime Fitness over there. And I was like, well, it's, you know, it's close and it's open 24/7 and it's big. Like, we had all sorts of discussions about that. Okay, but you don't know him to ever have visited a gym? Not in the time that I was spending time with him. Now, he did like work out with me one day at my house. Like, we did a little bit of yoga and like a ab routine. I showed him an ab routine, but it wasn't at a gym. Okay. It was literally like on my living room floor on some yoga mats. All right. What gym do you go to? Well, I go to 24-hour fitness. Which one? The one, it depends on the day, but usually the one off of, it's like Bradburr, it's like Vrain and 120th. Rain? What street? I'm sorry. I think it's Vrain. Oh, Vrain. VR, like Victor. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Vrain. Yep. Or Bradburn, but it's over there. I think it's the Broomfield one, but it's the big one just west of the highway. Okay. And so we asked last night, we were talking a little bit about, you know, Chris's dramatic weight loss during the first period of him working out and becoming a better eater. And I asked if he was taking any narcotics, such, and you said no. The one question I didn't ask, do you know him if he took anything other illegal substances other than, you know, I mean, most people, when I say narcotics, I need to be more specific, you know, would think meth or something to that effect. But steroids or any of those things, do you know him to use any of those? Not that I'm aware of at all. Okay, so that leads me into Shanann was a promoter, for a lack of better term, for the product called Thrive. Yeah, I know a lot about that. Okay. He was always doing that. It is considered like I consider that a supplement, not like a drug, but maybe. So can you he always had that stuff. So it's a patch, right? I don't know a lot about it, but Chris was always, I don't either. Well, now she's saying she don't either. But right up here, she says, I know a lot about that. So, I mean, which one is it? Using Thrive? Always. He always had at least two of those things stuck to him somewhere. He tried to get me to use them, but I was like, no. Like, I just eat clean. I go to the gym and I stay fit. I'm not going to stick some little thing on me So you think it's just some kind of supplement? I don't, I think it's bullshit, honestly, but it's just me. I don't, um, I just, I don't know. I mean, I eat natural foods and I go to the gym like 4 or 5 days a week. I don't even work out that hard, to be honest with you. I still eat cheap meals. I still enjoy my weekends. I'm not like a super gym addict, and I've always stayed in shape. So when he came to me, he was like, Thrive helped me lose weight, and I never like dogged that. I was just like, if that's what it helped you to do, that's great. But he said he plateaued on it, and I was like, well, because you're not eating healthy, maybe you don't need to on that stuff, but you can only lose so much weight on like diet supplements or diet plans before you like get stagnant. And then he was like, well, I want to eat healthier. And so that was when I was like, well, I'll help you like to get stuff, just to show you how to eat healthier and like how to do that. And he was kind of, I was trying to get him to do it on his own, but I was just kind of giving him some basic steps from what I know from just my experience. And I don't know, maybe being in health and fitness like lifestyle for the past 4 or 5 years. Okay, so Thrive for him was something that he used on a daily basis, at least 2 patches on at all times, you said. Um, but you don't think for you don't, it's just a supplement, and it, from what my brief research over the last couple of days, is kind of a product that might give you energy and help you lose weight. And there's kind of a life coaching supplement part of this thing in here. Is that a fair assessment of what you know Thrive to be? Yeah, I guess. Like, I'd have him try to explain it to me a couple of times, and he really couldn't explain it to me. Like, I don't even think he knows in full depth exactly what that stuff is. Okay, fair enough. Because I was just like, because he's like, do you want some of this? And I'm like, no. I'm like, if you could tell me what it is, then maybe I would try it. But I mean, I think I even still have 2 of those patches in my purse, but that he gave me. Let me see, because I never used them. I was like, what am I going to do with this? Let me see. I might have them. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I do. Okay, so you have some patches that he gave you? Yeah, and I never used them. Like, those have been sitting in there since probably close to the time we started hanging out. Okay, because I forgot I had those till just now. All right. Okay, those are the only questions I had. So if you'll do me a favor, and as new thoughts come up, just write them down so you don't lose them, and then give me a few hours and let me try to get some arrangements made with a victim advocate to reach out to you regarding some of your struggles here, and I'll get back to you with that person's name so you know who they are. Okay, okay. I thought there's something else. See, now I remember these things that I was going to tell you today. Okay. So you and Mark both asked me this question. So Saturday, when he and I went out to dinner, you guys both asked me, you said, so he came to pick you up. So I'm like, is this a trick question? Okay, that tells you she was preparing herself for them to be giving her trick questions, right? So she already thought that. So she already was preparing herself for any kind of trick questions they might ask her. It says it right there. She said during the interview she thought it was a trick question. So, why? Why would she think that? Why wouldn't she just answer stuff straight up? I mean, if you're telling the truth, you've got nothing to hide. So even if even if it was a trick question, then what's the deal? Who cares? Just answer it honestly, right? So either way. No, he didn't come pick me up. I told you guys we drove my truck and he never picked me up. But I'm assuming it's something of significance that you guys both ask what it is. It's not my business, but I don't know if it really matters at all. But he drove my truck. I didn't. Like, we drove my vehicle. He just was the one operating it. I don't know if that really matters at all. Like, yeah, it kind of matters since that you sold that truck. Like, the the evening of the murders or the next day, you sold that truck. So they never got to analyze that truck or look at it for anything. Not saying that they ever would have, but even if they needed to, they couldn't have because you got rid of it and contaminated it. No. Like, I don't know if that's even relevant, but I didn't think so. I'll just, that's just a question. So we were trying to verify what vehicle he was driving because we didn't know if he had more than one vehicle. That's all I was looking for. Oh, no, no, no. Okay. Okay then. On that note, and again, he said yesterday the only car he had is the Lexus. Yes. And then you guys also asked too. You said, did he mention a Rockies game? And you asked me that last night about Saturday when him and I went out. And you're like, did he mention a Rockies game? And the first thing my brain thought of was, well, no. We went to go watch the Broncos game at that restaurant and we didn't even get to watch it. And then I got to thinking about it and I was like, he did mention a Rockies game. He told the babysitter that was watching his kids on Saturday night that he was going to a Rockies game. Okay, do you know why he lied to her? Probably because nobody knew about us. Okay, all right, that makes sense because so we had heard of you and that he had gone to a Rockies game, so that's why when we found out about you, what we were suspicious about him having a girlfriend. So those were the lines of questions, and don't read too much into the questions because the questions I have for you might not mean anything or they might mean a lot. So they're more sometimes just to tie pieces together and tie time frames together and to answer other questions that we don't have answers to. So don't dwell into things too much like that. If he drove your truck or not, if we ask you something, just be truthful, and just the response, and then, don't dwell on what we're asking for, because it's just going to drive you mad. Yeah, I know, I promised myself. I read the news this morning. I found out where they found those little girls. It's so disgusting. That's so scary. And then I promised myself after that, I was like, I'm not going to read the news for the rest of the day. And I've been in a much better mood. So there you go. That's definitely helping. But I did read something last night. A phone and article. And again, I know how the media is, but I did read something where they interviewed one of his friends, and his friend said that Shanann, before all of this happened, was like getting ready to leave him, and that she was suspecting infidelity with him, and that she had told her friend that, and it just like made my stomach sick because I was just like praying, like I really, really, really hope that whatever conversation they had that night that like sparked all of this shit was not about me. Well, obviously it was all about you. Right, okay, again, I don't think I told you I don't think that there's an answer for any of those questions right now. I think there's a multitude of reasons why these things happen. And trying to pinpoint or put a finger on why this happened or blaming yourself is really not going to do you any good. Just like yesterday, you were concerned that you should have called the police on Monday, and really you didn't have, with your assessment of going on there, would be no reason for you to. Now the other people, like I said yesterday, they wore more information than you did, and they took a step that you didn't because of that information. And the same thing goes for this. There's don't beat yourself up over this. What has occurred, I mean this, out of your control. You didn't do anything to this woman and or her children. OMG. Are you kidding me? That is insane for him to even say that, but whatever. It's, unfortunate for you that you're tied into this, but it's not your doing, so don't beat yourself up too much about it. What? Oh, Mark put it pretty good the other day. He told me, he said, you didn't do this, Chris did this. That's right. He said, you are not on trial, he is on trial. And I was just like, that is a good way to look at it. Okay, well, okay, keep that in mind. There's things that happen in our life every day that are out of our control, and unfortunately, this one is a massive issue. But is there something you could have done? I think we have asked this question. Was there something you could have done to prevent this from happening? Yeah, there was. Back off. And although I didn't maybe ask it that way yesterday, your answer was, I didn't know this was going to happen. So if you didn't know this was going to happen, he never made mention of this happening, then what are you going to do to prevent it? Well, she could have backed off. Right?
Yeah. She could have actually done that. And
Understand. But sometimes I still think about, he did just really, lose his shit that night. And he was just so upset that he, decided to take out his whole family. And I'm like, or was he, plotting this whole fucking thing? I don't know. Okay. So now more stuff. So then another thing. So that I think one of the most significant phone conversations that I had with him, two things. So one of the most significant phone conversations I had with him was that very first one on Monday night. So see, it's like she tries to pull him away from that 111-minute call Sunday night right before Shanann got home, and she keeps trying to pull him into this night. I'm more interested in the 111-minute conversation instead of her talking about him being in him and Shanann's room, in the girls' room, FaceTiming. I know all that's important, but I already have my own opinions about that night. Let's get on the 111-minute conversation. That's the one Koback wants to hear about too, but she never wants to talk about that one, ironically. Because that was the one where he talked about the sheets, and that was the one where he was wishing, and that's when he talked about the blankets. That makes no sense. And that's the one where he was wishing, and that's when he talked about the blankets missing from the kids' rooms. And that was also the one where he talked about trying to freaking get her wedding ring appraised. right? Like all of that, like really creepy shit happened like in that, okay, phone call. And that was when I really, really started getting scared. And you'll probably see that when we link up those texts. Like, okay, I think almost it was probably every other text I was saying to him was just like, I'm really scared. I'm really scared. Right? And I think that was when I just, like, okay, I'm creeped out. And then, like Tuesday, nothing had gotten better. And then I found out he was lying to me. And I was already kind of creeped out from the night before. And I was like, okay, and I didn't even realize it until you guys were like, try to think back on some of that. And then last night, I was just like thinking about all these phone conversations that we had on Monday night. And I'm like, you know what? Those were really uncomfortable. In fact, they were so uncomfortable, I ended that Skype conversation because Skype? I thought she said it was a FaceTime. But okay. Right? It made me so uncomfortable. Okay, well, hang tight. Let me make some phone calls and try to get things in order for somebody to call you. And again, write down any thoughts that you think are relative. The information you provided today was very important, and I thank you for reaching out and providing it to me. Okay. I will do that. Can I call you back pretty soon though? 'Cause I really, yeah, I'm gonna jump on. Need to get on a roll with this and a Darko thing. Yep, I'm gonna walk out of the office that I'm in right now and go talk to the people who handle that. And see if we can get somebody in touch with you sooner rather than later. Thank you. All right. Should I wait? Should I wait to talk to my boss before I talk to them, or you might want to talk to them first? It's a decision that you need to make, but I think they're going to be more interested in your personal health, and that certainly revolves into your personal and professional life. So you might just give them a minute to talk to you, and then that might help you make a decision on what you want to do. I think that sounds great. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know I had 5 things I wanted to say to you, but I only remembered like 4 of them. So I might like text you or call you. Perfect. Or something later and let you know. If I think of something, yep. But I think that I got the big ones out of the way on that. Okay, it's best to text me because I didn't mention this in the beginning, but you probably already know. Anytime we talk, I record it, especially regarding the information that we just discussed. So if you text me, then I can move to a quiet area so I can run the recorder. That way, both what you say to me is, I don't misinterpret what you say. It's coming out of your mouth, and that's why it's recorded, okay? Okay, so how does that make sense? He says it's best to text him, and then he goes on this whole thing about telling her if they do it over the phone, he's damn sure going to record her. So I don't know that. No, that's kind of like a whole contradictory thing there as opposed texting to calling. So yeah, it's just weird. So is this going to be one of those things where if it goes to trial, they'll like hold me accountable for every single itty bitty word? Because sometimes I told you last night, just remember, I don't remember the exact words. If if it does go to trial, there'll be some prep before. You just tell the truth as you remember it, and that's all you have to do. And nobody expects anything in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 5 years, whatever it might be, to remember exactly what somebody told me in that span of time ago. So you just don't worry about that right now. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, if it ever gets there. Okay? Sounds good. All right, take care, and I'll call, either I will call you and give you the name of the person who's going to reach out to you. Can you do that? Because I have so at this point forward, Mark was just like, if you don't know if media's going to call or anybody, yep. Like, I'd make people leave a voicemail and sure, just don't answer them. I will call you and tell you their names and their phone number, which they will be calling you from, so you can be confident of who they are. Thank you. All right, Nikki, thanks. Have a good one. You too. Bye-bye. Bye. The time is 11:41. I'm going to stop the recording. Well, it stopped a long time ago, but there you have it. There you have it. The whole transcript. And I do believe the stuff that was cut out or kind of white noised out was important. I think it's really important, and I think it's important for more reasons than what I've even seen right here myself. You guys probably picked up even more than what I even called out. And if you did, let me know what it is. Because to me, this was all important. Very important. And this one didn't actually sound like it cut out. This one more sounds like it was like white noised out at a point. Like halfway through, it was like white noise came in. So, it's just weird. But anyway, there's your transcript. And all of you have a great one. And this is UnJustified.